Mother of Flies isn't the kind of horror movie that jumps out to scare you. It creeps under your skin slowly, lingers there, and refuses to let go. At first glance, it feels like a familiar folk horror setup. A dying child, a witch in the woods, and a desperate last hope. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that this film isn't interested in simple good versus evil answers. Instead, it explores the uncomfortable idea that life and death are deeply intertwined, that healing can be grotesque, and that motherhood can exist in forms that defy everything we think we understand. Welcome back to Your Nerdy Show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master, and today we're breaking down the ending of Mother of Flies, unpacking who Solveig really was, why Mickey was chosen, and how one of the most disturbing rituals in recent horror cinema turns into something strangely redemptive. From the moment Mickey and Jake arrive at Solveig's isolated home in the woods, Mother of Flies establishes that this is not a story rooted in logic or science. Solveig speaks in riddles, moves like she's untethered from time, and exists in a liminal space where the living and the dead seem to overlap. Flies constantly surround her, her house feels grown rather than built, and her healing rituals blur the line between ancient medicine and outright sorcery. Jake sees red flags everywhere, but Mickey sees hope, and for someone staring down the certainty of death, hope doesn't need proof. It just needs belief.
Solveig brought a stillborn back from the dead and kept it as her own.
Who is Solveig really? Solveig is introduced as a witch, a healer, and something more unsettling that the film refuses to name outright until the end. She lives without food, listens to the whispers of trees, and performs rituals that feel invasive and borderline cruel, including poisoning Jake with a toxic herb and cracking open a snake's egg on Mickey's stomach. To Jake, Solveig is dangerous and possibly delusional, but to Mickey, she is someone who understands suffering on a level no doctor ever could. Solveig never promises a cure in clear terms, yet Mickey clings to her words because they offer meaning rather than statistics. What's crucial here is that Solveig never frames her rituals as miracles. Instead, she treats life and death as equal forces, inseparable and necessary. This philosophy is at the core of Mother of Flies, challenging the idea that survival is always the ultimate good and death is always evil. Solveig exists outside that binary, and that's what makes her terrifying and compelling at the same time. The recurring imagery of decomposing bodies throughout the film subtly foreshadows the truth about her existence, suggesting that Solveig may not belong fully to the living world at all.
The truth is, she's a fraud, and she's been making you look like...
The 3-day ritual and Jake's doubt. The healing ritual is meant to last 3 days, a time frame loaded with religious and mythological significance, particularly resurrection myths. During this time, Jake becomes increasingly uncomfortable, watching his daughter place her trust in a woman who feels more like a ghost than a healer. His skepticism isn't rooted in cruelty or denial, it's rooted in fear. Jake has already watched Mickey almost die once, and the idea of losing her to false hope is unbearable. His constant questioning frustrates Mickey, who sees his doubt as a refusal to truly support her choice. On the 3rd day, Solveig hypnotizes Mickey and transfers a snake she has swallowed into Mickey's mouth, an act that is as symbolic as it is disturbing. The serpent immediately invokes biblical imagery, especially the story of forbidden knowledge and temptation. When Mickey wakes up feeling violently ill, Jake finally draws a line. He insists they leave, convinced that whatever Solveig is doing is harming his daughter rather than helping her. Mickey, devastated by what she sees as his lack of faith, tells him to go. Jake leaves for a nearby motel, believing he is giving Mickey space while still staying close enough to protect her if needed.
Trick death.
Trick death.
Yeah, even her own.
The truth about Solveig's death. At the motel, Jake casually asks the receptionist about Solveig, only to uncover the horrifying truth. Solveig, according to local lore, was a necromancer who died hundreds of years ago. She had supposedly tricked death itself, allowing her spirit to roam the earth long after her physical body was buried. The villagers, terrified of her power, had buried her under stones to ensure she would never return. This revelation recontextualizes everything we've seen so far. The flies, the lack of food, the decomposition imagery, it all points to Solveig being dead, or at least no longer human. Meanwhile, Mickey's condition worsens in Jake's absence. She begins hallucinating a blood-soaked woman calling for help, and the house feels increasingly hostile, as though the forest itself is closing in on her. Realizing she may have made a terrible mistake by sending her father away, Mickey tries to escape, but quickly learns that there is no leaving Solveig's domain. The witch knocks her unconscious and drags her to a place marked by stones and roots, Solveig's grave.
Understand? Your curse is my gift.
Why did Solveig choose Mickey? To understand Solveig's motives, the film slowly reveals her tragic past. Centuries ago, Solveig was asked to save a pregnant woman whose baby was stillborn. In exchange for saving the mother's life, Solveig demanded the right to keep the dead child. The villagers agreed, but later betrayed her, burying the infant and denying Solveig the one thing she wanted most. When Solveig resurrected the child herself, the villagers responded with pure brutality, burning the baby alive and burying Solveig under stones, terrified of her power. This backstory reframes Solveig not as a monster, but as a mother who was violently denied her child. Her necromancy wasn't driven by malice, but by love, and it was that love that ultimately condemned her. Mickey's hysterectomy and tumor become deeply symbolic in this context. Solveig refers to Mickey as barren, yet still a tree, implying that creation can exist even without traditional fertility. Mickey's tumor, described as apple-sized, becomes a twisted version of forbidden fruit, something deadly that also holds potential. The serpent Solveig transfers into Mickey serves as both a guide and a catalyst, leading Solveig to the fruit within Mickey. Biblically, the serpent represents knowledge and temptation, but here it also represents transformation. Solveig isn't taking life from Mickey, she is reshaping it.
The truth won't hide in dreams.
Did Solveig actually cure Mickey? In the film's most harrowing moment, Solveig cuts open Mickey's abdomen and removes the tumor, an act that Mickey experiences as unbearable pain. But instead of discarding the mass, Solveig transforms it into a newborn child. This is the ultimate inversion of horror logic. What should be grotesque becomes miraculous, and what should be impossible becomes reality. Solveig finally holds a child again, created from death but shaped into life. This moment completes Solveig's arc. She doesn't steal a baby or destroy another woman's future to satisfy her longing. Instead, she chooses someone who wants the tumor gone, turning Mickey's suffering into her own redemption. Solveig screaming at the pile of stones is her final act of defiance against the villagers who tried to erase her humanity. By reuniting with her child, Solveig's soul is finally able to rest. When Jake returns, he finds Mickey unconscious but alive, her abdomen completely healed with no visible scars. The blood on the ground confirms that something physical occurred, even if it defies logic. Medical tests later prove that Mickey's tumor is gone, and she is, for all intents and purposes, cured.
Smothered by the kindness of stone.
Why dig up Solveig's grave? The final act of Mother of Flies brings Jake and Mickey back to Solveig's grave, driven by the need for certainty. After everything they've endured, they need to know if it was real or just a shared hallucination fueled by fear, grief, and desperation. Digging through the stones, they uncover skeletal remains of a woman holding an infant, confirming that Solveig's story and her final act were real. This discovery isn't about proof for the world. It's about closure for them. Mickey refuses further medical testing because she no longer needs validation from science. She knows she's healed, and more importantly, she knows what belief gave her when nothing else could. Solveig's connection with death didn't bring destruction, it brought transformation. Mother of Flies ends on a quiet but powerful note, suggesting that healing doesn't always come from light alone. Sometimes it emerges from darkness, grief, and things we're taught to fear. Mickey survives not because she rejected death, but because she accepted its presence and allowed it to reshape her life. And in doing so, Solveig finally finds peace, proving that even in horror, there can be creation, compassion, and love.
Life, death, which comes first? I bend birth.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.